What's up, everybody? Today I'm going to do a little quick breakdown on MOT's new indicator, gravity, aka the sauce box. Okay, so a lot of people know it as sauce box, but we renamed it to gravity. Gravity has a hidden strategy inside called the Repel zones. I'm going to give you guys some basic rundown without giving away too much sauce. If you guys want to learn the real sauce behind the gravity zones and the Repel zones, all of that's available in the Maestro Mastermind course. Exactly how to draw them manually, how to manage them the way that I manage them, and how to trade them exactly like I trade them. If you guys are familiar with just the basic concept of support, resistance, and orbs, you will be able to piece it together fairly well as to what I look for and how I look for reactions around these zones. Each zone is played a little bit different, and I'll give you guys a pretty quick little easy breakdown of what each little area does. Okay, so we have two. When you plug in the indicator, you'll have two different boxes. You have the choice to eliminate some if you don't want to see some. So you'll have the gold or orange boxes that you'll see here. These are the gravity zones, also known as the sauce box. Okay, these are anchored in place. They do not move. They will be deleted when the deletion criteria is met. And the indicator will do the basic deletion criteria, as that is the easiest to script. There is a couple other deletion criteria that are pretty impossible to script, unfortunately. And I go over that with my students in our list, but the viable boxes that survive are still playable. You'll see some that are no longer on our charts that are on the 5 minute. The older boxes will show up on the higher time frames. The 1 minute, the 2 minute will have a little bit more limited data, so they might not show older boxes. But if you're not like me and you don't like to look at multiple charts, right, you can absolutely measure it out and plug them in, right? You could use this little crosshair. You could choose a crosshair up here, the top left in your tool menu, right? And you can pretty much just draw your box. You can go into your rectangle, right? And then what I like to do, let me turn that magnet off, right? I'll hover my box right over where you'll see on the 5 minute chart. So if you look to your right, you see my 5 minute chart. That's the third chart. And then the first one's my 1 minute. And then I'll basically begin the draw, and then I'll match it up to the points, right? And I think I shifted it a tiny bit. Boom, there we go. So if I want that box here on my 1 minute chart, you can change the colors of the box, and you can modify it to your liking, right? The box settings, you can mess with the style, right? I have it extended to both sides. You can have it just extended on one side. You could change the color of the midline, the background color, and you could do all that fun stuff here in the rectangle settings. And that's if you want to just plug in old boxes into your 1 minute time frame to have them there for potential reaction zones. The basic concept of the gravity zones is I play them like orb. They're anchored orbs. They do not move. Price tends to gravitate towards these areas. That's why we call it gravity. Okay, so you're going to see pulls in both directions depending on where the boxes are going to be. Obviously, like I just said, right, you have space in between boxes, so you can, like I said before, right, you can draw them in, right? You'll have your 1 minute box here, right? And then you'll have another box right above there as well, right? And then you can start piecing it together. You can start see, oh, look at these rejection points. Look where the price comes to and where it gets trapped, right? When you have two gravity zones close to each other, right, you're going to get back and forth, back and forth, back and forth until one starts to give. And then you start to see it pull away and get drawn towards the next one. Gets spit out, gets really close to that old gravity zone, comes right back down, and then you start seeing it all over again. One thing I want to make clear, right? Same thing with quantum levels or any support and resistance areas. I will not always target a tap of that area. Does it happen a lot with gravity zones? Yes. But if I'm in a green trade, let's say I get into a trade over here on these rejections, right? And I'm already very green, right? Let's say I got in 805, I'm up 60, 50 points. I'm not going to let this come back all the way up and take away my wins, I'm going to scale out, I'm going to trail. And if my trail gets taken out, oh well, right? I had another potential opportunity at a rejection there, took my points again, right? If I combined these two, it would have given me what I was looking for initially there, and that would have been great, but it didn't, and that's okay, right? I'm very much about control, and this is how I kind of, my style flows, right? Everyone is free to modify the style to your liking, okay? And when we pulled back up, right, we pulled right back up, guess what, right? It rejected, broke back inside, and just like orb, right, you have a play of a break inside to the mid to the top, and then you hung out inside and you had a nice little breakout, and then you had a little bit of a pull, and we got trapped. And this is current price action right now. Today is August 10th, 2026. So this is where we're currently at. Nice little rejection there. And we are potentially, right, we're not sure if we're going to break back outside of this and make our way back to test this box over here on the 2 minute. And this is just typical when you have multiple gravity zones, it tends to get very choppy. I like to have an area where it tends to be a little bit more open so that I can potentially get a bigger move as price goes towards that direction. So right now we're going to potentially witness a break. Right, we're testing on the 2 minute. We still have this box over here, okay, and we're testing this area. And the next areas, okay, and the next areas, we can see what could happen here, right? There's a break, it could retest, could reject. We don't know, right? Market's live, it's gonna do what it wants to do. But that is the basic concept of the gravity zones, right? There, it's just melting through, and it can keep going if it wants to keep going. And then we have space, right? We have this space in here on this 2 minute, right? Can you draw this on your 1 minute? Absolutely. Just like I said, right? We can draw this out here, and you could have your 1 minute and focus on your 1 minute. And you can see where, okay, we're going to mess around here. If we break out, then we have potential for it to pull down here to that next gravity zone. The other little instance, right? Gravity, right? You have 2 points of gravity pulling at each other. When you get to the center, both sides are going to pull, right? That's the basic rule. So the center of the gravity boxes is also an area, the 50%, right? If we draw this out, oh, look where it bounced, right? One gravity box is pulling it back in while the other one didn't have the strength at that point to pull it towards it. And I give little weird narrations to setups, right? I do a lot of narrating. If you guys listen to me to Power Hour, I give kind of weird characteristics to the chart, right? But that just helps me. That helps me narrate what potentially can happen. I know that if, you know, if I'm playing a rejection, where my stop loss might be, right? And all that is risk management on your side, right? What are you willing to risk, your size and your stop loss? There's variations of ways to play the gravity zones, whether you use midline, whether you use the breakthrough, the break above, right? There's multiple ways to play it. And in the course, I break to the T exactly what I look for entries, what I look for risk, my size, and all that fun stuff. But again, right, it's not difficult to really figure out. When you start to watch it, you start to see how it breaks, goes to the next area, breaking the mid, with potentially trying to test the bottom. All right, you can see market points, swing points, where you could also have some support resistance before we make it towards the next area. But that's gravity zones, right? Gravity zones, again, are anchored. They don't move. They stay in place. Now, the next part is the extra strategy that is called the repel zones. The repel zones are going to be these bright greenish, bluish, turquoise, whatever color you guys see. Everyone sees a little bit of something different, right? These are intraday kind of gravity zones, right? They're they appear during the day. The deletion criteria is very simple. If they get broken through both sides, they are gone. But when they hold, they're an extra area of, depending on the direction it forms in, support or resistance. So in these cases, right, we have 3 or 4. I think we have 1, 2, 3, 4 up here, right, within a gravity zone. Okay, and these are these boxes that I have on the higher time frames, right? We actually have named these boxception, right, like the movie Inception. So we call these boxception. And is just an intraday box or the repel zone box inside of a gravity zone box. And this gives this area a bit of extra strength. Now, let's zoom in on the one so you guys can just see it, right? You'll see the candle that forms them, okay? And the play criteria, again, right? Support resistance, breaks out. You're looking for it to break, reject, and continue on its merry way. Very simple. especially when you line them up with gravity zones, and then you have a nice break, retest, and a bleed through to the next gravity zone. It is a very fun strategy. These don't appear when, and let's say for NQ, right? With NQ, and we'll go over the settings in a little bit as well. With NQ, the particular settings that I play the repel zones in, there are going to be days where they're going to be very, very rare. There are going to be days where they will not appear as often. There are going to be days where they're going to be left and right. You know, probably pre-market Asia, they're going to be coming in hot. And you're going to see some really nice repel zones to play with. There's going to be other days where you're just not going to see many. You're going to see very few, and you're either going to move over to a different ticker or just play the gravity zones instead. And that is common with NQ. Now with gold, and I'll kind of explain it on gold as we might as well now, right? We're going to go see, look at gold. This has been my cheat code for gold, right? For gold, I do not use the daily anchors. I will turn this off, boom, right? And I will only have the repel zones. Now with gold, okay, the default settings for NQ, sensitivity 3. With gold, you can go as low as 2 to 2.5. 3 will tend to give you a little bit better zones, but 2 and 2.5 with gold will still give you some pretty decent ones. And you can see here some really nice plays. Some of these tend to be very low risk, right? I'll give you guys like a little taste of it, right? You see a break, depends on where you want to set your stop, but you can already see if you play the whole box, right? It's a 40 tick stop loss. If you play half the box, it just cuts it in half. It's a 20 tick stop loss, and you have potential move, right? Depending on where you look at structure, you have a potential move to this structure, or you could just play the trend or wait for another one to form and just keep playing it over and over and over again. As long as those boxes hold and hold and hold, right? You can continue to play a short or hold a trade until a new one forms and it breaks through. But this was, again, right, you can see a nice beautiful move all the way down here, and then we had our move up, right? And this is, again, right, the sensitivity on gold, I switched it down to 2, right? If we switch it up, let's switch it up, right? We go to 2.5, you're going to get fewer, right? A lot less. We eliminated one of the 3 that were up here, but they tend to be a bit stronger. The higher the sensitivity, the bigger potential move there is, right? But you still have to play cautious. There are also big candles that appear that you want to be careful of. This was a wild explosion. I looked at this earlier this week. I think it was Friday or Saturday. This happened Friday morning. Yeah, Friday morning. So Saturday, Friday night, I remember looking at this and being like, wow, what an explosive move after that little break over this zone. But you can see this has been my super fun cheat code for gold. The repel zones are just goated, especially when they hold. Like when they hold, you're going to see breaks and retests, a new one forms, break and retest, and just fails to close underneath and eliminate the box, and just kept using this as a support area and then bounced hard before we had that new one form here. And the repel zones, right? We do, and with gold, with metals, I do not use anchored. Now you guys are free to go and back test the anchored with whatever ticker you want. It is really great with NQ, with ES, with any other major ticker. It's really, those anchored zones are really good. Those gravity zones. The intradays are fun for daily scalping, right? For daily trades. And they just give you clear areas for price to get spit out, right? Repel out. But that's the basics, guys. That's very basic. It is a fun ass strategy. I know I see a lot of people that see me talking about Saucebox, right? I put a video not that long ago. Saucebox. This has been my kind of ace under my sleeve for the big plays, because I do catch some really big trades. Everyone thinks I'm this super micro scalper of some sort. And I'm like, no, guys, I catch big trades every once in a while, right? But I don't chase them. That's the thing. I don't chase them. I let them come to me. If I catch a 50, 100 point trade, freaking awesome. If not, oh well, I don't care. Right? At the end of the day, it's about getting payouts, getting paid, making more money than I'm putting into the system. And that's all that matters to me. And that's why I have these tools to help me do that. Now, I present these tools to everyone else. how they want to use them, right? You can absolutely build your own system out of this. If you guys want to learn exactly how I use it in combination with all of my confluences, right? Quantum, MVG, my old EMAs that I love to use before the quantum action lines took over. You guys can absolutely find all that information in the course. I do weekly morning. We do twice a week. We're doing morning pre-market sessions, and then I'm also doing like weekly recaps and psychology. So I'm always answering questions. I'm very active with my students. I want to see people succeed and grow and be able to read the market, right? This is the key for everybody. Be able to read the market in your own way, right? If you can use a confluence that I use and you can make it benefit how you read the market and it gives you an edge, amazing. That's what this whole thing is about, right? I'm trying to make things not as confusing. I don't give anything a fancy title or a fancy name. I just explain how it is. Market structure, higher lows, higher highs, lower highs. It all starts from there. And we break everything down as simple as we can get. But that's Gravity Zone. Again, this is very simple. It's very simple to read, very simple to play, very fun. All right. But the moves, your TPs are going to be a little bit on you on that sense, right? The zones give you an area. Obviously, you know, if it breaks the opposite direction, the trade's no good. I typically chase 1-to-1 RR and my runners keep going. And everyone, that's knowledge that everybody knows. If you guys watch us during Power Hour, I'm constantly doing that, and my runners tend to chase the continuations. But I appreciate you guys. I hope you guys learn a good amount on how these zones somewhat work, right? I can't go I can't deep dive into the sauce, unfortunately. Wouldn't be fair to the students, but these are insanely strong areas for you guys to use as leverage for reaction and for moves, right, that break out, right? This one just happened here not that long ago at 10:22. There's your break, there's your push. We just have another one forming over here, right? Little tiny wick push. You want to wait for it to fully break and make a push potentially for this, right? And that's how you can kind of see where it's going to repel from one zone to another, but it still requires some patience, still requires finessing entries and things like that, okay? Other than that, everybody, I can't believe we made something like this, because I was gatekeeping Saucebox for a long time, but it's out there now, right? It's out there. Gravity is the Saucebox. It's out there for everyone to use. It's out there for you guys to dissect, learn about it. And again, right, I break it down. I have a list. Actually, let me guys kind of show you a little bit, right? I have my own personal list that I use. Let's go back to NQ. Make sure this is on NQ so you guys can kind of see a little bit of it. Let me delete this one. Let me delete any of the old ones. Rectangle, boom, boom, right? I have the Maestro sauce boxes here, right? And my boxes that are currently active are going to slightly differ than the boxes that the indicator is going to show. The deletion criteria for some of these boxes is impossible to do on the indicator. But this is something that I do give daily updates to my students on the boxes that I have personally deleted and the ones that I keep or don't keep. The indicator is still really good at keeping track, right? It still is really, really well, right? You can see how I don't have that box over here, but look, right? You can see it's respecting it. It's holding on to it, and that's perfectly fine. That's the edge that the indicator can give you if you're unsure, right? If we caught this short here, you write it to the bottom one of this, right? And once it pauses here, my runner would got trailed out and I would have been perfectly fine with it. But that's it. I really hope to hear questions from you guys. Obviously, I can't break the boxes down too much, but I can absolutely just answer some of the basic concepts. If you guys are interested in learning a little bit more on orb, because those gravity zones I do treat like orb, right? The Max has a bunch of free old orb videos that give you a basic rundown on the orb, right? And that's what these anchored sauce boxes are treated as. They're treated as anchored orbs. You look for rejections, you look for breakouts. You want there to be space in between them. If there's not space in between them, it tends to be a chop area, right? A lot of people also wonder why I play the chop so well. This kind of really helps. So other than that, everybody, I appreciate you guys again. You guys are interested in more of learning more about my style, anything like that, right? Quantum Shift is my main strategy. I do weekly Sunday night study sessions on Quantum Shift. And guess what? If you guys have Gravity and I see Quantum and Gravity users in there, I will gladly answer Gravity questions with Quantum confluences. No issues with that, right? Other than that, everybody, enjoy the rest of your day. Please like, subscribe, hit that bell, do all that fun stuff. I will also be posting all of my study sessions from Quantum that we do Sunday nights on this channel as well. So you guys can freely get to learn about my style with Quantum Shift, right? Quantum Shift is the most repeatable strategy there is. It's the same setups over and over and over again. Nothing has changed with Quantum for over 2 years now. It's my main bread and butter strat that I use as major confluence with things like Gravity, with things like Orb, with things like MVGs and everything else that's out there. It's like the chameleon of indicators. It can really adapt well with P2P, anything out there. So appreciate you all. Enjoy the rest of your day. Peace out.